Good morning, everyone. I know we're here today to talk about the statistics for the Harrisburg Bureau of Police, but I'd like to take a few moments to kind of provide some of the framework as to how we get into how we believe some of the numbers are reflected in our Bureau. And in this professional arena that we call the policing side of what we do, there's no agency anywhere that would not talk about the backbone of their organization. And for us, that would be our patrol section of the Harrisburg Bureau of Police. Our patrol section is the first line, the first responders, and they set the framework and the tone of how our agency operates. Without the dedication and the hard work of our patrol section, I don't believe that we would be currently heading in the direction that we are, which is always continuous to improvement. There are a few things that factor in the age of our agency, which at some times can be a little scary. But overall, as our agency continues to grow, we see that our level of professionalism continues to grow. It's evidenced in some of the more high-profile cases that you may see that we're dealing with and we have done with, the level of restraint that our officers utilize when handling cases and when handling the initial contact from people, especially where weapons are displayed. Our agency continues to move in that direction of taking the time, taking the extra effort to do what is needed to be done. In short, what I'm saying is that the officers in our organization, especially our patrol section, but the whole agency, they care. They care about our communities, they care about the people that we service, and they care about the public. Sometimes that seems to be confused in this day and in this time, but through our professionalism of our young officers and our agency, I think we've taken a direction that is reflected somewhat, although I'm sure we would like to take credit for all of the numbers, the decline in the numbers, but I believe that our agency and our patrol officers that handle the calls for service are a great reflection that lead towards that decline. Our calls for service, as you know, are large. They are sometimes seem unmanageable, but our officers come to work dedicated and they do the job that needs to be done. They make the time with the craziness sometimes of the profession to still make their business checks, to still do the foot patrols, to still make the bicycle patrols, and even visit our schools where I have actually officers today that are reading to our children in school. So with all things, the strides that we take to get to where we're at can always be improved. As an agency, we look to do that, and we want to continue to be that agency that is supportive of our community and address the needs of our community and our city. I want to take the time to thank our department as a whole and individually for their continued dedication and service to the city, to the community, and the general public. And we'll now transition over into the statistical numbers that I believe our department has factored in. I'm going to turn you over to Captain Oliver.
Good morning, everyone. Before I go into the numbers, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the numbers. Harrisburg City does have crime. We're not going to say that we don't have crime. We are the largest agency, and we're the only urban agency in 3 counties. So when you compare our crime, you have to acknowledge that we are an urban city. And comparing our crime to the townships and the boroughs around us is comparing apples to oranges. You need to compare our criminal statistics to other third-class cities. And when you compare those numbers, I believe our numbers are down. We looked at the numbers from 2013, 14, and 15. And overall, our Part 1 crimes are down by 24%. On violent crime. Our Part 2 crimes are down 2%. Our Part 2 crimes are usually crimes of opportunity. They include our drug offenses, and they include where mandated reporters would call in and report certain crimes. But our homicide rate for 2015, we ended the year with 16 criminal homicides. Most of you remember that we went through the year and we actually investigated 19. Several of those, 3 specifically, were determined to be non-criminal. So we have a reduction of 5%, 5.8% in homicides. In 2013, we had 17 criminal homicides. Okay? Rapes. 2013, we had 54. In 14, we had 49. And in 15, we had 28. That's a reduction of 53%. Our officers are out there making themselves available, being able to be seen by individuals, and that has a big effect on a lot of different crimes, such as our robberies that went from 368 in 2013 down to 228 in 2015. That is a 38% reduction. And as I said, you cannot compare Harrisburg City to any of the townships, not only in Dauphin County, Cumberland County, Perry County. You have to compare it to another class, third class city. Our burglaries went down from 675 to 469, a reduction of 30%. Our assaults went from 1,355 to 1,233, a reduction of 9%. Our auto thefts went from 192 in 2013 down to 140. That's a 27% reduction. Now, our Part 2 crimes, some of them did go up, and there's reasons for that. Okay? Specifically, we had our child abuse and child-related offenses went from 59 in 2013 to 89 in 2015. A large portion of that had to do with the laws that were changed in January of 2015, where it expanded our mandated reporters. So because of that, we received more calls, more referrals to us that we need to investigate. Our drug offenses went from 1,525 in 2013 to 1,767 in 2015. That had to do not only with our vice and organized crime unit, but also the Attorney General's mobile task force. They were here working with us for over 6 months to do drug investigations, to arrest individuals. That affects our numbers. So in those cases, our numbers will go up, but it's a reflection of the work that we are doing and the people that we are arresting and taking out of our community. And by taking those individuals out of the community, we take that problem out of the community. Our arsons have increased from 17 in 2013 to 15 in 2015. Although that is a 29% increase, you're only talking about 5 additional. Many of those that we have are usually in homes that are not occupied by individuals who should not be in that property. Many times they're caused by individuals who have no business being there, starting a fire to either keep them warm or for some other purpose. Theft by receiving, that is a crime where you're actually caught with a stolen property on you or with you. Went from 87 in 2013 to 102 in 2015, an increase of 17%. That is directly tied into the work that our officers do. You don't look down the street and realize that someone has a stolen piece of property on them. Our officers are identifying this when they're looking for people, arresting these individuals, looking through property and determining that these properties are stolen. Our criminal mischief. These are the crimes where they're actually damaging homes, damaging cars, damaging property. We went from 1,145 in 2013 to 919 in 2015. That's a reduction of 19%. Our summary offenses, where we're actually handing out citations to individuals, went from 5,301 in 2013 to 5,049 in 2015. That's a reduction of 4%. We don't have the problems as much anymore that are perceived in the media. Once again, Harrisburg is the only urban city in the area. So when you think of crime, you think of Harrisburg, but it's unfair because our surrounding jurisdictions don't have the crime that we have because we are an urban city. We are an urban police department, and we deal with the issues that we currently have. And I think the numbers indicate that we're doing a good job. And I think if the numbers were to go back further, you can see that we have been doing a good job over the course of years. I would recommend to you that you compare our numbers to other third-class cities to see if we're doing as good a job as we think we are. And if we're not, hold us accountable. But if we are, acknowledge that as well. All right. Questions?
Yes. Do you think that more can be done, probably more can be done just across the board, but do you think in terms of the murder rate, it's only down like down 5%, it's not much from 2015 to 2013, they're both like 16 to 17. What do you think can be done? It's not much of an improvement. So what do you think can be done there in particular?
Well, first thing, the homicides in the city, these are not crimes that are committed against people that don't know each other. The majority of our crimes, the victim and the suspect actually have some type of connections. Do we have a couple that there is no connections with the two? Yes. But they know each other. Most of these crimes are committed by young males. Young males between 15 and 24 years old. So what I would say is not only with us helping to combat crimes, we need the help of the community. These are the young men of the community who feel that their anger and their emotional outreach to someone can only be resolved through violence and ultimately through a gun. So yes, can we try to slow this down? We can, but these individuals know each other. This is when the community needs to get involved. And when they begin to see a problem, they need to step in or they need to notify someone else. Because when we get involved in that, it's already done. It's already done. Yes, sir.
Just one, and to touch on that question that you asked, it's very hard to plan out a homicide and where it could occur. Obviously, there are some factors that we could look at. If you're seeing an area that has an increase in some other crimes, like you may say maybe drug problems, some other quality of life issues, when you ask if there's anything that we could do differently, that could maybe get more attention. But to actually go into an area to say, we're going to go in here to prevent homicides in this area, it's hard to gauge where they may be at.
So you would say that's probably the most challenging
That is the most challenging one, is to kind of predict where and how. So you can look for some underlying factors, but there's no real blueprint to take you to where you may say, if we're having burglaries in a certain area, where we could look at the amount of people that live in the neighborhood, whether it be renting versus own, the amount of traffic. There are other factors that we can look at to try and influence to change that, but a homicide is
so
almost
at this
impossible.
Point, you can't really, police are really doing all they can do. You really need the community to step in and help.
The only thing that we can
remain
do is
consistent throughout the years. It's not changing really.
Right, is be there, is be present. The presence is about the only thing that we can add to, just in those hot spot areas where we may see a pattern. But other than that, there's no one thing that we could do differently to change that.
Can you explain how the closing of a number of bars and clubs in the city is reflected in the numbers here?
Several years ago, we had a downtown district that was more focused on more clubs, which were bringing many people from outside the city into the area. And also throughout the city, we have a lot of neighborhood bars. When you start getting individuals, large amounts of people together, and you start including alcohol to it, you start getting some problems. And in the downtown area, we started seeing those problems. I think all of you have witnessed it in one shape or form, some of the problems we had out there. People would actually come down to actually watch all the circus atmosphere, so to speak, that was occurring. That area has now transitioned more into a restaurant row, what it was originally intended for. So when those bars transitioned, we started seeing a huge amount of crime reduced in those areas. We have certain bars that are nuisance bars. The department has made a focus of going after certain nuisance bars because of the amount of crime that is not necessarily involved with them specifically, but because of them. We've had a couple of them that were closed, and those neighborhoods have transformed as far as the amount of crime that have happened around them. So it does affect those areas. And the good thing about that is the bars that we currently have see those things, and they're beginning to make some changes so that way they're not targeted as a nuisance bar. And they're beginning to change the culture of not only their own bar, but also that neighborhood.
And it would be fair to say that these closings of these bars and clubs is reflected in the rape, robbery, burglary, and theft numbers?
And also summaries.
Assault.
Some.
Yes. Most of the crimes that are crimes of opportunity, crimes against persons. Because we did have assaults, we did have thefts, we did have criminal mischiefs, we did have public drunkenness, we did have all of those things, drunks, drugs in all those areas. So by changing or transitioning those bars into other things, those things got reduced.
Do you have any idea how many bars have transitioned into something else, or the numbers of how many you guys have closed for being nuisance bars?
I don't have those numbers with me at this time, but we can see about providing those to you at a later date. Any other questions? All right.
Could you, real quick, can you talk about your relationships and involvement with the mental health sector as well, and how that's helped kind of decrease some of these crimes?
One of the problems that we've seen over the course of the years is we're seeing more individuals having mental health issues. And that's related to many, many different crimes, be they simply public intoxication on the street, to stealing because of drugs, or many different things. We have developed close relations with our drug and alcohol, children and youth, and a couple other agencies where when we start the initial investigation, where our uniformed officers actually get there and they determine that a crime has not occurred, but this individual now needs some additional assistance, we make referrals to other agencies. And they've been very, very good working with us and providing the assistance that these individuals need. Does it fix the problem immediately? No. But once we've identified someone who has some type of disability or some type of problem, and we make notations of that in our system, when we have encounters with that person again, and we determine that the incident is not criminal, we then refer them back. And I think through that process, we've helped a lot of people, and that's helped reduce some of our crime as well.
How did you get to building those relationships with these agencies? Was it just something you decided we needed to be in better touch with these other agencies in the area?
Part of it's necessity, because we started seeing the need. But part of it was some planning. We started making some outreach to these organizations and started building those relationships, because it wasn't, we were seeing that it wasn't a one-time thing. We needed to go back to some of these agencies and make different referrals. So we put in the effort to start making those relationships and building upon those. And I think we have very good relationships. And I think the individual officers have built relationships with other agencies as well.
And I don't want it to seem like we're taking all of the credit for that. It was a mutual decision-making process. I think in this day and era, it just made sense that we all try to recoup our resources as best as possible. Every agency, every organization is strapped. You know, everybody's doing what they can. But once we all sit down at the table as stakeholders, we can then consolidate our resources, we can reach better, we can do things, and we can go outside of that normal parameters that we were accustomed to doing and try different things. Case in point, with Pinnacle Health, they have nurses that actually go out into the field, into the street now, to try and identify some of the mental health pieces that come into the emergency room and clutter up the emergency room and draw out their time of service there. So there's different pieces all over. They come over to the agency, they provide roll call training, they talk about the things that they're going to be able to do, and then we work out the partnership as to how we can help them achieve their mission and how they can help us achieve our mission. And it gives everybody more tools on the tool belt. We don't have to be just a police agency that just all we can do is come in and arrest. We now have other options, and we have those opportunities and those doors and that communication open that we can kind of streamline and kind of try to take the lead in this area, and hopefully everyone else will follow in suit and see, hey, this is a viable plan. This can work for everyone.
What crime are you guys identifying more mental health, people who have mental health issues? Is it just rape? Are there other crimes?
From the mental health side, it could be any one of any of the
But what are you seeing?
the stuff.
What's more prevalent? Is it
Domestics are a big piece. That's always going to be a big piece. If you talk about, and if you factor them shift by shift, from a patrol side, I talk from the patrol side. Obviously, Captain Alvera talks from the detective side. From the patrol side, the initial contact, at least on a daylight, some of the notes I kind of jotted down. The things that we see are the domestics, that's going to be a huge piece. The unknown problems. Sometimes it may come in as a person acting out on an overdose or a drug issue. Once we get there, we see that there are other pieces that fit in there, and we can kind of change how we do business. We don't have to necessarily put you, which is not the proper place to put you in Dauphin County Prison because you have a mental health issue. There is a proper facility for you to go to get that proper help, and that's where we can get in earlier, we can point in a different direction, and people can pick it up and take it that place.
So those crimes would consist of summary offenses, which you have your disorderly conduct and stuff, your rape, any other crimes?
It could be all.
I know it can be all of
It
them.
could be just the noise complaints on the street, the loitering people on the street in front of a business. You can tie that into almost anyone, and it's no discipline is
I just wanted.
safe from it. It stretches its fingers across all.
Any other questions?
Can you just quick talk about the bomb threat from over the weekend, just shifting gears? If anybody else has any questions on the numbers?
Oh, no, I'm good.
We're good? Okay, just talk about, it seems like there's a pattern here with a specific suspect.
Yes, we received another call on the 31st at about 12:30-ish in the afternoon. It was very, very similar to the one that we had last week. We had some type of backpack with a container in there and with a note indicating that there was a bomb in that bag. It's very consistent with the one from last week. We currently have our forensics officers and our detectives reviewing everything to determine what's going on. As you indicated before, what kind of issues bring mental health, this very well could be something just like that. So we have to look at it from many different perspectives as to why this individual is doing this, why this specific location, the times of days. We have to look at all those things. All right. Any other questions? All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.